What was the most profound spiritual moment of your life?
Well, I got two or three, if it's all right. I guess the main one was when I became a Christian at age 18 in New Smyrna Beach, Florida, on February the 14th, 1948. I was 18 years old, and that has governed my life. I became a Jesus Christ type person. I'm not very religious, but I'm very spiritual. Next to that, I guess, is my marriage. Marriage to my wife, Edna, when I was 20 years old, and she was 17, but almost 18, and that was in Charleston, West Virginia. But I think the birth of my children, I have four sons, and each time she gave birth to our sons, I felt very, very spiritual about that. Okay?
What are you most proud of?
Well, several things, I guess. I am very proud of my education. When I was 18 years of age, I went to college and did not. I was the first person in my family, of several families, but the Poole family, to go to college, and I didn't understand what it was all about. I was in line one time for registration in the freshman class, and I was so timid, I watched the folks up front to see what they did, so I'd say and do the right things when I got there. But I have since become, I have two bachelor's degrees, two master's, and one doctorate, and school got to be very much fun. I'm very proud of my education, and I appreciate it very much. Today I'm doing a lot of blogging on Facebook, and I really account my education for doing that. Another thing was when I met Harry Truman, President Harry Truman, in his office in Independence, Missouri. The context of that was I was with a bunch of preachers, and I was staying in Independence at somebody's house, and I was in the back seat of the car en route to Kansas City for a minister's retreat, and I said, "You suppose I could meet Harry Truman, the president?" And they wah 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 laughed. He wouldn't have time for you. Well, when they were having prayer or something, I slipped out to the back in those days, and back in the early '60s, and they didn't have any cell phones. And I went to a phone booth and called out to the museum, the Harry S. Truman Museum, and asked if he'd be there the next morning, and does he see visitors? And the lady said, well, sometimes he does. I knew right then I could do it, and I got there early, didn't tell anybody. But on the way home, I met 15 minutes privately with that's the whole thing with Harry Truman, and that day I felt I brushed history. I asked him how he felt with Joseph Stalin of Russia, and the thoughts in his mind before he dropped that bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and I felt close to history that day. And on the way home the next day, going back to Louisville, Kentucky, I call that home then. I said, guess, I cleared my throat. Guess who I saw yesterday? And of course they asked me. I said, the President of the United States, Harry Truman. Of course he was out of office, but he hadn't been out of office very long. One more thing about what I'm most proud of is the time I flew my first solo as a pilot in a Cub airplane. I had left the ground 4 to 7 feet, and I thought I was kind of like the Wright brothers. I had licked gravity. I had gotten in the air. I was by myself and went around the runway there, grass strip in Texas, and then landed. And there are other things, but those are some of the key things in my life I'm proud of.
Okay. Do you have any favorite stories from your restaurant, Poole's Barbecue?
Well, yes, several things. The time Pat Buchanan, who was running for president of the United States, came by there, and that day we had 500 people, and the media was there from all over the world, Japan, Canada, Australia, all over the United States, ABC, NBC, CBS, and all the networks were there, and that was a big time. We've had several senators. One was Senator Paul Coverdale, who was third in line for the presidency. He was there. And see, three more senators. We've had 4 senators there. That was Saxby Chambliss and Johnny Isaacson. They both came at the same time once. I'd say I'm very proud of the media. The media has been our friend. We had a bunch of pigs on a hill, plastic pigs with people's names on them, back behind the barbecue. We call that, well, the Pig Hill of Fame. I didn't name it. A customer did. A very good friend named it. Lester Maddox, a former governor, Tom Graves, a congressman, and 1 or 2 more. And Miss America's been there. I say that those experiences made us very famous nationally, and I think those are great experiences for me.
Okay. If you could go, change something from your past, what would you have changed?
I would go into business earlier because we became well known as a small business, free enterprise, and that's one of the things I believe in very much now. As a very conservative person, my dad taught me to be conservative. That you have income up here and live down here, whereas the new generation wants to have an income, live up there and income down here and go in debt. And I'm concerned about our national debt. We're living above our means. But I would go into business 20 years earlier. We started out in a shack beside the road and just somehow did well. As I said earlier, the media became our friend and came by. We had a pig mobile on the Pig Hill of Fame, many pigs on the hill behind our barbecue. I'm looking at my notes here. I would have gotten a PhD, that's Doctor of Philosophy. I have a Doctor of Ministry, D.Min. I have a doctorate, but it's almost equal to a PhD, but not quite. And I would have gone to the funeral of Ronald Reagan when he died, and that long entourage there going into the Capitol building there, which was several miles long. I would have gone to that. Okay.
So what was one lesson you learned from your life?
I would have learned a lot more patience. I've always had the problem of wanting things done now or yesterday. And that's been a real problem to me. And then also I worried. I've had some problems in my life. One was a physical problem. I had to have a new heart valve, and in the hospital they told me at age 79 that they couldn't do anything for me, and I wondered what they meant by that. Were they going to send me home to live 3 months or 6 weeks or 6 months? But that's been about almost 10 years now, and I'm still going pretty good. I wouldn't worry. Most of the things in fact, I guess most all the things I worried about, I found out were needless. No need to worry. But I think the main thing would be patience. I'd learn to be more patient than I am.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.